Get your ears wrapped around the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast. All the scoop you need to know, from college basketball to the NBA and even March Madness. News of your rising stars, topics on and off the hardwood. This is the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast.
All right, guys, welcome to the GSMC Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Casey Foreman, on Mondays and Thursdays, and this podcast is brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Welcome in, everybody. Again, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. A lot to talk about, with the NBA Finals, somewhat, in my opinion, coming to a close here shortly. A lot to discuss, a lot of different aspects to talk about, from the NBA and in basketball in general. I want to start today's podcast by discussing Game 4 of the NBA Finals. That game, a pivotal game, obviously, in the series, putting the Lakers up 3-1 over Miami. I want to break down what I saw and what we might see in Game 5 on Friday. Then I want to stay on the NBA Finals, but focus in on that Finals MVP award. I think Lebron James and Anthony Davis have both made a case for the Finals MVP award. I'm going to break that down and let you guys know, tell you guys who I think is deserving of that award at this point in time. I then want to talk about Victor Oladipo, the guard on the Indiana Pacers. He has been in the news recently stating he wants to play for a contender, wants to, rack up some hardware. So I want to break down his comments. I'm going to talk about what that means for him, what that means for the Indiana Pacers going forward. And then at the end of the show, again, like I said, with the NBA bubble and the finals, coming to a close, when the finals end, the bubble ends. So with the bubble coming to a close, I feel it necessary to recap, go over one more time some of the biggest surprises and the coolest things, we saw in that Orlando bubble. One more recap of the bubble, because again, it's coming to an end. I am predicting it comes to an end on Friday. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, let's go ahead and start today's episode with discussing the most recent game of the finals, Game 4. After the win on Tuesday, like I said, LA is up 3-1 over Miami. With Bam being inserted back into the starting lineup, Miami did push the Lakers for all 48 minutes, so you want to give credit there. Bam coming back definitely had a big effect on the game, his effort. However, it was not enough. The Lakers win, like I say, 102 to 96. But again, Miami pushed them, hung with them for all 48 minutes. Lakers only won by 6 points. It was anybody's game up until those final minutes of the game, like I said. But Jimmy nearly backed up his 40-point triple-double, with a 20-point triple-double, nearly back-to-back triple-doubles, like I said, for Jimmy in the NBA Finals. He has 22, 9, and 10 in Game 3, 13 and 11 it was for Jimmy. So he almost has back-to-back triple-double, something that is not usually seen in the NBA Finals. LeBron is the only player to average a triple-double in a postseason series. He did it in the finals, a couple of years back against Golden State, I believe. Jimmy isn't quite doing that this year, but has had a couple of very impressive performances, nearly again backed up the 40-point with a 20-point triple-double. But again, Jimmy was not the only one, like in game, what was it, game... Game 1, when there were all of the injuries that took place. It was basically Jimmy versus LeBron and AD, with the rookies on Miami not stepping up, it being their first finals game. It was Jimmy's first finals game too, but more of a veteran. He stepped up and played well despite, twisting his ankle. So in Game 1, it truly was Jimmy versus the Lakers. In Game 4, not quite the same case, not the same deal here. Jimmy was not the only one to contribute. Bam, again, like I said, inserted back into the starting lineup. Bam goes for 15 and 7. Has a couple of key plays on both sides of the ball, but again, it's his first game back after that injury. Who knows if he's healed 100%. 15 and 7 after again being inserted back into the starting lineup in the NBA Finals. An impressive showing from Bam. Tyler Hero has his best finals performance yet, the youngest player of all time in the NBA Finals. The first player born in the year 2000 to play in the NBA Finals. That's crazy to think of and to say out loud, honestly. But Tyler again has his best finals performance, 21 and 7 in Game 4 for Tyler Hero. Duncan Robinson also finally shows up. Not sure where he really was in games 1 and 2 and 3. He shows up in Game 3, 17 points, handful of 3-pointers as well. Again, 17 points from the rookie, 21 from the other rookie. They finally start contributing for the Miami Heat. 15 and 7 from Bam, and like I said, 22, 9, and 10 for Jimmy. But it just is not enough. But for LA, it was again another inconsistent showing for Anthony Davis. That is until the final plays of the game. However, had a key 3-pointer, a key block on Jimmy Butler. But for the most part, throughout the game, a subpar performance for Jimmy Butler for the most part. He had 22, 9, and 4, when it was all said and done, in 42 minutes. But to his credit, he also had 4 blocks, so did not necessarily have it going on the offensive end. Still backed it up, still contributed on the defensive end with 4 blocks. Again, one key block on Jimmy Butler late in the ball game. So yes, when it all mattered most, AD stepped up and played very well, but again, throughout the game, a very inconsistent night offensively for him. LeBron, however, remained consistent. 28, 12, and 8 for LeBron. He did see, I do want to say, in the first half, if you guys watched, a lot of timid basketball. I think LeBron was playing he seemed timid, I should say. Wasn't looking for his shot, was not attacking the rim. We know he hasn't necessarily shot the 3 ball all that well throughout the series. Not terribly. I said a couple of key 3-pointers. Did it in the third quarter, I believe, in Game 4. A big momentum swing. He scores 7 points on his own. Either way, in the first half of Game 4, a bit timid, was not attacking, was really looking to get others involved a little bit too much. We know LeBron can at times overpass. I've criticized him about that in the past. But that seemed to be the story in Game 1, despite him saying, again, this is one of the biggest games of his career. But he comes out in the second half, completely flips a switch offensively, starts attacking, scores 20 points in comparison to his 8 in the first half. Again, has a key 3-pointer in the third quarter, goes on a 7-point run of his own for the Lakers, and they end up being, in the lead for about 7 points for about the rest of the game. So you can argue that 7-point run for LeBron was probably the most important one of the entire game. Again, only 8 points in the first half, 20 points in the second, 28, 12, and 8. Contavious Caldwell-Pope for the Lakers was huge. 15 points, 5 assists, knocked down a huge swing-in momentum 3-pointer. About a few minutes left in the fourth quarter, he hits a huge 3-point shot. So KCP was huge. He finally, stepped up. We've been waiting for him to make his mark. He did it when the lights were on, or when the lights were at their brightest, I should say, on the biggest stage at the end of a game, at the end of a finals game. That is, in the game you could potentially go up 3-1. He knocks down one of the biggest shots of the game. KCP was huge with 15 and 5. Rondo, not too much going for him offensively, only 2 points in the ball game. However, 5 assists and 7 rebounds for him. So his his mark was all over the game. It kind of shows you that if you are not shooting well necessarily, you can still implement, your game in other ways, still affect the game in other ways. He has five assists and 7 rebounds, only 2 points, but he was still huge on both sides of the ball. Kuzma and Markieff Morris, I'm sorry, both have 9 points. So overall, it really was a good showing, a very good showing for Los Angeles, and they go up 3-1 in this series, and honestly, they regain complete control. If that was ever in question, that question has been put to bed. The Lakers now have complete control of the series, being up 3-1. Again, a good overall performance. Anthony Davis is subpar on the offensive end, but it still remains dominant on the defensive end with 4 blocks. But to be honest, if Miami is at 100% throughout the entire series, I do think the series would be tied 2-2 right now, 2 games apiece. At the end of Game 4, I truly think it could have went either way if Miami has another 3-point shooter, another decision maker on the court in Goran Dragic. If Bam, is 100% healthy. I do think this is a different story, and the series is probably tied 2 games apiece right now. But injuries happen, and they have always affected outcomes in the postseason. It happens all the time. I talked about it on my last podcast. In the 2019 finals, 2015 finals, heck, back in the 1989 finals is a great example. So there are tons of examples I can point to of injuries being a huge factor in series. So you can't let that affect it necessarily, or you can't let that narrative rule the series necessarily. But again, if Miami was 100%, I do think this series is probably tied, with the games being as close as they were. Game 4 could have gone either way if they have another decision maker in Goran and 3-point shooter. I do think the story is a little bit different in this series, and maybe we're tied at 2 apiece. But despite the low ratings, I think Game 1 had the lowest ratings in decades. But despite the low ratings, I do want to say I have enjoyed the finals this year. LeBron, in my opinion, I'll get to that in my next segment, so stick around in my next segment. I'll really hone in on this. But I do think at this point in time, LeBron is most likely in the driver's seat for that finals MVP. I'll get to that in my next segment. Don't want to hone in on that too much. But again, if the Lakers were, this is a quick scenario, hypothetical for you. If the Lakers would have lost Game 4 with another, subpar performance from Anthony Davis, does that actually help his finals MVP? Because that means the Lakers do not win unless he is dominant on both ends of the ball. So if they lose, with a bad performance from him and a good one from LeBron, despite a good one from LeBron, I actually think that helps his case. Again, I'll get more into that in the next segment. So stick around. But the Lakers come around and win Game 4, despite it going either way. Again, it was up until that 7-point run from LeBron. It truly felt like the Heat almost had the momentum in the game at halftime. It truly felt like the Heat had momentum, and then the Lakers were kind of in a little bit of trouble. But then again, LeBron does not have a good half. AD does not necessarily have a good half, and they were still leading in the ball game. So, there were positives to look at. But overall, at halftime, Miami has the momentum. Miami is looking like the better team, looking like they could potentially tie this series up. Again, LeBron scores 20 in the fourth quarter. AD has some dominant plays, in key stretches, throughout the game. Has a huge 3-pointer with 40 seconds left, and the big block over Jimmy Butler. So yes, the Lakers come back and win Game 4 despite only 22 points from Anthony Davis. LeBron's 28, 8, and 12. LeBron's 28, 8, and 12 truly is the driving force of the win. But you don't want to forget or not mention the great shooting performance from the supporting cast in LA. Both KCP, like I said, Danny Green contributed with 10 points and a few 3-pointers. So both, all their shooters contributed. You want to credit them, credit LeBron for being consistent despite a subpar, again, performance from Anthony Davis. I originally did pick Los Angeles to win in 6 games. All things considered, Heat at 100%. Again, I said it a couple of minutes ago. I do think this series is a little bit different if Miami is at 100%. If they have Goran and Bam, for all 7 games, all four games up until this point, though. However, so if they have them again, it's a different story. I originally picked LA to win in 6. So yes, I thought Miami would win 2 games at full strength, but I am now switching my pick officially. I think the Lakers will win on Friday. Game 4 was a must win, in terms of momentum in the series, momentum-wise for Miami. Game 4 was a must win. They lose a must win game, go down 3-1. LeBron James has never lost a series while being up 3-1. He has come back in a series being down 3-1, as we know. Has never lost one. I don't see that happening this year to this Miami team. Again, Game 4, a big momentum loss, a must-win momentum-wise for Miami. So I'm now switching my pick of LA in 6 to Los Angeles, getting the gentleman's sweep in just 5 games. Again, on Friday, I am anticipating the end of the 2020 NBA season. The Orlando bubble will come to an end. The NBA Finals will come to an end. I'm predicting LeBron James to have his 4th NBA title. He will officially be 4-6 in the NBA Finals. Anthony Davis will get his first. Danny Green gets his 3rd on his 3rd different team. Frank Vogel gets his first. Rajon gets one for the Celtics and the Lakers now. So a whole lot of different storylines going into the Lakers this year, them winning it. A lot of historical factors that go into it this year. But yes, I am predicting 100% predicting I will be very surprised and shocked. I'll be shocked if the Lakers do not get it done on Friday and they are not crowned the NBA champions. Again, LeBron's going to get his 4th. AD gets his 1st. So make sure you guys are watching on Friday, since the next time we're probably going to see the NBA, the highest level of basketball possible. The next time we're going to see that probably at the earliest will be January, in 2021. Not too far away by any means, but it's not necessarily close. Again, it's not a couple of weeks, or it's not, it's not Christmas, right? Which we originally thought would be the next time we see the NBA. So we're going to have to wait at least until January. Make sure you guys are watching on Friday. Because again, I am fully expecting the Lakers to clinch the series, clinch the championship, and go 4-1. Gentlemen sweep their way through the entire postseason. LeBron does it in the East and now in the Western Conference. Make sure you guys are watching on Friday, and if you think you know what the outcome is going to be, you might want to go and place down a bet. If that intrigues you, listen up. I want to let you guys know about my favorite sportsbook, and that is BetUS. Football, basketball for now, and baseball are all back, and that means it's time to get down your bets. Like I've been saying, I only endorse one sportsbook, and that is BetUS. Why? It's because BetUS is the pioneer in online betting with more than 25 years in the business. You guys need a sportsbook with integrity, longevity, and you need to know that you're going to get paid. You need a sportsbook that offers everything, including live betting, MMA, golf, horses, esports, entertainment of all kinds. They have crazy prop bets and futures. Nobody in the industry gives bigger bonuses than BetUS. Go to betus.com now, fill out your information, and it only takes a couple of minutes. And when you get to the How Did You Hear About Us box, type in GSMC and get up to 150% on your first deposit. Nobody beats that. I bet at BetUS, so should you. Join BetUS today, and don't forget to type in GSMC to get up to 150% in bonuses on your first deposit. That's BetUS.com, America's Sportsbook.
Are you looking for the very best NFL and college football podcast? Then check out the GSMC Football Podcast. Get the latest football news both on and off the field. From the NFL Draft to trades to the rumor mill to the NFL Combines, they got you covered. That's GSMCpodcast.com/football-podcast. Get updates on college rivalries, game day insights, and much, much more. It's football talk the way you want it. This show eats, sleeps, and breathes football. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
All right, welcome back. Like I said before the break, I want to now focus in and discuss the Finals MVP award because I do think both LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they have both made their case for the award. So let's go ahead and break it down, and I want to let you guys know who I think is most deserving. I might have let the cat out of the bag in my last segment. We'll see if you guys caught it or not. But like I just discussed, I really have enjoyed the NBA Finals this year. Los Angeles has proven they are 100% a 1-2 punch combo, not necessarily a Batman Robin duo. I think both of them have proven to be, capable of being number one guys. I think Anthony Davis does shine a little bit, brighter, he plays a little bit better when he has a guy like LeBron on his team, hyping him up, also playing, just as well, if not better than he is. So that is a big factor. But the two players are playing at almost the exact same high level. It is a two-punch combo in Los Angeles. That is 100% confirmed here. It's looking like even Anthony Davis might even be able to take over, as the number one guy on the Lakers, as the head honcho, if you will. It looks like, AD might be able to take the keys, from LeBron, kind of something he was waiting for Kyrie Irving to do. Maybe he now has a guy in Anthony Davis capable and willing to do so in Los Angeles. But yeah, I've enjoyed the finals. We finally have a little bit of a surprise showing. We didn't necessarily think at the beginning of the year the Lakers were going to make it out of the Western Conference. ESPN's odds had them at a lesser chance than Denver, Utah, Philly, the Clippers, Houston. So they had the Lakers at basically a less than 1% chance of making and winning the finals. The Heat, basically, they weren't even on that list of chances to make it. So we definitely had a surprise showing in the finals. I have definitely enjoyed it so far. LeBron, like I said, and Anthony Davis have both had very good finals appearance so far, both playing very well, and like I said, both making their case for that finals MVP award. But in his first NBA Finals, let's first focus in on the guy in his first finals, traded from New Orleans, obviously, Anthony Davis, first year in Los Angeles. In his finals debut, he is averaging 26, 9 and 3 on 60% from the floor, and like I talked about in my last segment, made some huge plays at the end of Game 4. A huge three-pointer that basically shut Miami's chances out. Shut them basically shut the lights off, I should say. And then Jimmy Butler goes up for a layup to try to bring back their hopes somewhat, and he just absolutely stuffs Jimmy Butler and, again, the chances of the Heat at coming back. So two huge plays in Game 4 for AD. He's averaging 26, 9, and 3 on 60% shooting in his finals debut. He definitely also had great performances in both games, both 1 and 2. In game 1, if you remember, 34-9. He was the biggest factor for the Lakers. I don't think that was in question. He was dominant for the entire game, it seemed like, on both ends. 34-9, had a block as well in game 1. Game 2 backs it up with 32-14. So 2 dominant performances back to back after games 1 and 2. At that point, it was looking like, in my opinion, it was looking like Anthony Davis was going to be the favorite for Finals MVP, somewhat snubbing LeBron James of the award he definitely needs for his all-time legacy. So for LeBron fans, there was definitely a little bit of worry there, or doubt for him, winning that Finals MVP after the first 2 games. However, after Game 3, obviously Anthony Davis really struggles in that game. In Game 3, only 15 points and 5 rebounds. 15 points, 5 rebounds for Anthony Davis, the tallest guy on the court, arguably the most skilled guy on the court, a 6'11" guy who used to play point guard, shoot it from the perimeter. Only had a handful of points in the post, in the paint, so it was mainly settling for his outside jump shot. Only 5 rebounds against the undersized Miami Heat. So 15-5 in an NBA Finals game is not going to get it done. Anthony Davis also only shot 9 times. Only shot 9 times in Game 3, and was also a minus 26. If you're a fan of plus minus, was a minus 26 for the entire game. Was in foul trouble for basically the entire game. So yes, that definitely hurt his chances, and then he goes in Game 4, like I said earlier, he goes in Game 4, has another subpar performance. But like I said earlier, if Los Angeles loses Game 4, if LA loses Game 4 with AD having another shaky offensive performance, I actually think it helps his MVP case. It propels him in the Finals MVP race, and that's kind of, I understand you guys may be thinking that's kind of insane to think. How can a guy be, playing bad? How can that help his case for Finals MVP? It's because, again, this only would have been the case if they lost Game 4. They win Game 4. So they won Game 4. This is not necessarily the case whatsoever. But if they do lose Game 4 again, and with Anthony Davis struggling on the offensive side, I think it actually propels him, because that proves Los Angeles needs him to be great on both sides of the court, or they will lose. Okay, Game 3, he's shaky on both sides, is okay defensively, but only 15 points, only 9 shot attempts. So obviously shaky offensively in Game 3. Game 4, only 22 points in Game 4. Definitely showed up on the defensive side. But if they lose Game 4 off after 2, back-to-back, subpar offensive performances from Anthony Davis, I think that propels him, because it proves Los Angeles needs him to be great to win the series. If he isn't, they lose. But again, they win Game 3, in big credit, in large credit to do with LeBron James. Again, his 28, 12 and 8 is the biggest factor of them getting the W in Game 4. But again, I don't think I'm too crazy here, for saying if the Lakers lose in Game 4, despite LeBron having a pretty good performance, and they lose in Game 3 despite LeBron having a pretty good performance, I don't think that helps LeBron's case. I think that helps Anthony Davis's case. Like I said, let me know what you guys think. I don't think I'm crazy on that point. But either way, that is not a discussion we have to have. The Lakers are now up 3-1. Again, in large credit to do with LeBron's 28, 12, and 8. He gets it done for them. Does what he couldn't really do in Game 3. I think that game was the Lakers should have won that game, I should say. It was in reach, in grasp for them. LeBron was playing well, had a bad fourth quarter, and that is why the Lakers lose, going along with Anthony Davis's bad game in general. But LeBron, let's go ahead. We talked about Anthony Davis now, right? A very good performance in Games 1 and 2, a shaky performance in both Games 3. and 4. Has some key plays in Game 4, however, on both sides of the ball. But either way, some good performances and some bad for AD. Let's move on to LeBron James now, who is playing in his 10th NBA Finals and who has been very consistent in his 10th NBA Finals. We've seen, I don't think we can really argue this, we have seen a whole lot better of stats from LeBron in the NBA Finals, but I don't think it's been a bad series for him whatsoever. His average throughout the entire series, listening to this, 28, 11, and 8 for LeBron for the entire series, and some people are saying he's been off all series. Some people are saying it's been a bad series for LeBron, and he's averaging 28, 11, and 8. Kind of wrap your minds around that. What other player would average 28, 11, and 8 in the NBA Finals, and that would be a bad series for them? Nobody. That is a great series for anybody else. Only for him, those could be, as you could say, roll out of bed numbers if you say looking at his prior Finals performances possibly. But he finally has a guy in Anthony Davis where maybe he doesn't have to put up the statistical performances or numbers that he had to in prior cases or in prior series. So for people saying it's been an off series or a bad series for him, I can't help but laugh because, when you look at the stats, he's averaging 28, 11, and 8, and his team is up 3-1 ultimately. So I don't really see how that is a bad or an off series by any means. Those are great numbers for anybody else. In games 1 and 2 for LeBron, games 1 and 2 for LeBron. In game 1, 25, 13, and 9. In game 2, 33, 9, and 9. So we see him distributing the ball, rebounding the ball, scoring the ball now. So I really don't get, again, the narrative of it being an off series. In game 1, 25, 13, and 9. Game 2, 33, 9, and 9. Again, in game 4, 28, 12, and 8, I believe. And then he also had 25, 10, and 8 in the Game 3 loss. A good performance, but a shaky, down the stretch, some bad turnovers for LeBron that ultimately, was the telling sign for the Lakers in Game 3. A bad fourth quarter, overall bad game for AD equals them losing that game. But again, 25, 10, and 8 for LeBron in a Game 3 loss when Anthony Davis has 15 and 5. LeBron still has 25, 10, and 8. Almost has them in reach of the victory up until, that fourth quarter and those shaky turnovers, like I said, those disappointing turnovers. So the game is in reach despite Anthony Davis having a bad game. LeBron remains consistent, averaging 28, 11, and 8 in the series in total. Let's see here. And then, in my opinion, I think his worst appearance so far was in Game 3 with a loss in Game 3 when they lose. That's got to be the worst performance, right? Obviously, when they lose, you got to look at the loss. But again, 25, 10, and 8. For that to be his worst performance in the finals, 25, 10, and 8, 2 assists away from a triple-double on good percentages as well. That is, again, almost laughable in my opinion. So in my opinion, he has yet to have a bad game. If you want to say Game 3 was bad because they end up losing in the bad fourth quarter, sure, I won't necessarily fight you on that case. But overall, for 25, 10, and 8 to be your bad game, and that's a pretty good bad game, I should say. I also do want to say LeBron at times in the series, especially, I should say, like I said earlier, in the first quarter of Game 4, in the first half of Game 4, very much timid LeBron James, not looking for his shot, kind of overpassing, which he can do at times, not locked in offensively. It seemed like not quite looking for his shot. Some bad turnovers as well for him in the first half. He locks in offensively in the second half, scores 20 points. So yes, I don't want to say it's been all good for LeBron. Again, if you want to say it was a bad game in Game 3, 25, 10, and 8, you can say it's a bad game. Was timid in the first half of Game 4, and then again in the fourth quarter of Game 3, had some bad turnovers. Could not get it done for the Lakers to go up 3-0. ultimately. So yes, you can point those specific instances out if you want, but overall, in my opinion, he has yet to have a bad game, a bad stretch of games, with Anthony Davis having consecutive, subpar performances, like I said, in games 3 and 4, 15-5 in game 3, 22-9 in game 4. Again, only 22 points where they really needed more offensively from him. Either way, some key plays down the stretch of game 4. But again, with AD having a inconsecutive finals series so far, especially because of games 3 and 4, and LeBron being consistent, him playing well consistently. I said it in my last segment. If you didn't catch it, I'll say it again. I gotta give LeBron James the edge over Anthony Davis, in this finals MVP race. I am predicting on Friday, LeBron will get his fourth championship, and he will get his fourth finals MVP. His third on a different team. So his third time winning finals MVP on a different team. Has done it on 3 different teams, did it in the East and the Western Conference. He's the first to ever win 3 finals MVPs he will be. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. He hasn't done it yet, right? I am predicting for him to be the first to ever win 3 finals MVPs on 3 different teams. Okay, something that has never been done before. People were saying Kawhi Leonard was going to be the first one to do it. Him and Kawhi and LeBron James were both in the race to do that this year. If the Clippers would have won, Kawhi would have been, the only person in that category winning on 3 different teams: San Antonio, Toronto, and the Clippers. However, LeBron James beats him to the punch. I am predicting he will win a championship in Miami, Cleveland, and now with the Los Angeles Lakers. A legendary performance, and we heard it when he first went to Los Angeles. We don't want to hear anything until he starts winning championships. You got to bring a championship back to Los Angeles. So that's exactly what we heard. For the entirety of his first season, when he underperformed, they failed to make the playoffs. All we heard was, if he doesn't win a finals here, we're going to really start looking down on him and his all-time legacy. If he wins, however, people were saying they will start, jolting him up in the ranks of all time. It's looking like he will be doing exactly that. Like I said, winning his 4th finals MVP, first to ever do it on 3 different teams. Anthony Davis, let's give him a little bit of props here. Like I said earlier, I think he was arguably ahead of LeBron James after games 1 and 2, 33 or 34, 9 and 3 in game 1, 32 and 14 in game 2. So yes, after those 2 back-to-back dominant performances, some of the best performances we've seen in a finals debut, I definitely think Anthony Davis was ahead of LeBron James, had the edge over LeBron in that race. But after games 3 and 4, both shaky performances, I gotta give LeBron James the edge here. Again, props to Anthony Davis in games 1 and 2. It seems like he was the driving force, but after games 3 and 4, it remains consistent that LeBron James is the head and the leader of the Lakers. They go as far as he will take them ultimately. They win game 4 despite, and again, a shaky performance from AD. LeBron played just as good, if not better, in games 1 and 2, and clearly played better in games 3 and 4. Has always been more consistent. So LeBron, as of now, being them up 3-1 before the game on Friday, LeBron, as of now, deserves to win his 4th finals MVP. It's insane to think he finally, finally gets his 4th, starting to catch up on Jordan, if you will. Only 2 away from getting that 6th championship. We know Jordan went 6 for 6. LeBron is now will be 4 of 6 if he wins this year. But again, if Anthony Davis can kind of take over as the lead guy on LA, and LeBron can remain a top 5, top 10 player in the league, we'll see. I don't think this will be LA's last time contending for a title going forward. But again, that's a topic all of its own. I don't want to get ahead of myself here. But yeah, in closing, LeBron James, as of right now, as of the Lakers being up 3-1, LeBron James is ahead of Anthony Davis in the race for finals MVP, the first ever to win 3 finals MVPs on 3 different teams, or a finals MVP, on 3 different teams. Props to him and the Los Angeles Lakers. Don't want to jinx them. Make sure you guys watch on Friday. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break. When I come back, I want to discuss Victor Oladipo, his comments on wanting to play for a contender. What do I think about that? What does that mean for Indiana and Victor going forward? That is coming up next. Don't go anywhere.
Check out the show that's built on the MMA, from the UFC to extreme cage fighting. They got the fights covered. Check out the GSMC MMA podcast. Get the latest news on past or upcoming fights. Join us as we talk to and about some of the biggest names in the MMA, past, present, and future. When it's the fight game, there's just one show to check out. GSMCpodcast.com/MMA-podcast. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Welcome back, everybody. Like I said before the break, let's go ahead and discuss and break down Victor Oladipo's most recent comments. He was on a podcast, as a lot of young NBA stars are nowadays. I talked about it on my last episode, what KD and Kyrie said on a podcast. Now I got Victor Oladipo saying some stuff on a podcast. These guys, they're either going into these things knowing that they're going to say this stuff, or these guys are getting it out of them, right? Either way, we see these NBA stars going on podcasts and releasing information, about their playing careers going forward. Katie and Kyrie's situation, it was about the coaching situation in Brooklyn. As far as Victor goes, his comments were about his career going forward, where he wants to play, what he wants to do in his career. He talked about how he wants to stack up some hardware, as he said, and wants to play for a contender. He wants to contend for a championship. And I do think I don't think it's surprising news, but kind of the way he said everything, I do think is somewhat surprising. Victor is, or maybe he was, in my eyes, the lead act or solo act in Indiana. I know they have people like Miles Turner, TJ Warren, making a big appearance in the NBA bubble. But for the most part, Victor Oladipo, the biggest name, Malcolm Brogdon as well. Don't want to miss him out, my Virginia guy. But for the most part, Victor Oladipo, the solo act, the headline act in Indiana. And for the most part, from what we've seen from him, he seems somewhat comfortable there and content, somewhat, happy even, I would say. He seems like he's also been competing for the most part, despite going out in the first round in the past several years. I do think the Pacers have been competing. Heck, remember the 7-game series they had with LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers a few years back in 2018, I think it was. So they've been competing, and for the most part, I think Victor seemed content from the outside. But he is now again in the news for saying, he values winning over being the team's, leading scorer, the team's leading guy. He said he's all about winning, wants some hardware, because at the end of the day, it's all about getting that hardware, he said. And ultimately, when all things are considered, looking at his comments and what he said, I love his spirit, his attitude, and what he said. I thought it was surprising, considering he still is under contract with the Indiana Pacers for the next year. But winning, is obviously super important to a player's legacy. He said himself, maybe I don't think this was necessarily a diss. I think Charles Barkley is pretty comfortable at this point with his career and what he accomplished and what he did not accomplish, obviously. But he even said, nothing against, I'm not saying Charles Barkley isn't a great player, but, it comes down to winning championships at the end of the day. So that is coming from his mouth. That is exactly what he said. And ultimately, I really like, if not love, his spirit, his attitude. He wants to get after it, wants to get wins, wants to add some hardware to his collection. A guy with not really much. I think he's a most improved player. I think he's won that award maybe. An all-star as well, but not too much of hardware he has acquired up until this point. Don't blame him, and I don't blame him whatsoever for going public, with this statement, saying, I want to contend and I want to win some hardware. No problem saying that. You want to be a winner. Obviously, you want to say you want to win. I completely understand that. The only issue I have with this, because yes, I do have one issue with this statement. Why else would I be talking about it if I didn't have an issue with it, right? But Oladipo, like I said a second ago, Oladipo is still under contract with the Indiana Pacers for another year. He's locked up for one more year. I understand if he's going to be a free agent in a couple of weeks or a month or so, but he's not going to be. He's locked up for another year. And tell me if I'm wrong. You could be sure to tell me if I'm wrong. I would love to know if I'm wrong here. But the Pacers don't seem to be, in my opinion, they are not a contending team. They're not a team contending for the NBA title, for the championship. And with Oladipo saying he wants to contend and be on a contending team, yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that is the Indiana Pacers ultimately. So that means a couple of things potentially. Number one, he's either hinting, subtly hinting, he wants out of Indiana, out of the Pacers organization, and they should trade him, get something for him while they still can within the next year. If he says, I want to contend, play on a contending team, get some hardware, ultimately it's pretty clear that Indiana is not in place to do that right now with the way their roster is set up right now, with no head coach whatsoever right now. So obviously they're not in position to do so. So number one option is he is hinting he wants out of Indiana, and they should trade him while they can still get a piece in return. We know they gave up Paul George for him in the exchange in OKC. You definitely don't want to give up Paul George for Victor Oladipo, then get nothing in return. If Victor is telling you he's going to leave next year, you want to trade him, get a piece or so in return while you still can. So that's option one. Maybe he's subtly, telling the Indiana Pacers organization to do that. Or there is option number two, where they're expecting a big name coach, like maybe a Mike D'Antoni, who's still on the free agent market and has been somewhat in the rumblings for Indiana. I know a small market team, but still, number two is they sign a big name coach like Mike D'Antoni possibly, and maybe they sign and add some big additions, some big names or name or so to the roster. So that's option two, a big name coach and some big name additions to the roster. That's option two. But there is one problem with option two, and that is they are in Indiana. Okay, they are the Indiana Pacers, and getting a big name coach, getting a big name free agent to your roster, to your organization, to your city, takes a lot more usually than just saying, hey, we got a good group of guys here looking to start contending. Ultimately players are looking, at the city where they're going to be living, at the organization as a whole, at the head coach. Right now they are without a head coach, not the great, location, right? When we're talking about real estate, location, they are in Indiana. So not too much to talk about as far as location goes. So what are the pros to going to Indiana? I can't list too many of them. It's a pretty good and young roster. Victor Oladipo, Miles Turner, Malcolm Brogdon. After that, not too much to talk about there. So there is a problem with option two. Option one does seem like the more realistic option. But then other questions, arise. Where could he go? Who could potentially trade for him? Where does he fit? And I do think there are different places where he could go and where he could potentially contend. First off, what about the team playing in the NBA Finals right now, the Miami Heat? They are simply outmatched by the Los Angeles Lakers, by the star power of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. They have proved they can go through that Eastern Conference. They can make a run. They can basically beat anybody in that Eastern Conference. Obviously, KD Kyrie have yet to make their mark yet for Brooklyn. But as of right now, Miami has proven capable of winning the Eastern Conference. But not capable, not enough to get it done, not capable to win a championship. Victor Oladipo is a two-way player who I think could fit with the Miami Heat, and Miami is a team looking for a player who can go and get their own shot, and Victor is exactly a player, at least he was in his heyday, a player who could go get his own shot, play defense, distribute as well, work well within a system. So I think Victor Oladipo, on the team in the NBA Finals in the Miami Heat could potentially be a great fit. Miami needs a player, just like Victor Oladipo. If Victor is at 100% ultimately, if he's not going to be at 100% coming back from that injury, which we don't necessarily know he is going to be coming back at 100% from what we've seen so far, I don't think that question has been answered. But if you're going to get Victor Oladipo from years prior, from the 2018 playoffs, from the 2019 season, 2018 season, yes, I think he would fit perfectly with the Miami Heat roster. What about the Toronto Raptors? After losing a guy in Kawhi Leonard, they have proven not being capable of winning that Eastern Conference, not being capable of competing necessarily. So could Victor add enough depth to that already deep team to get them back into the NBA Finals? Toronto also looking for a player capable of going and getting his own shot, also playing, defense, being a two-way player. Victor, exactly that. So could he be a good fit in Toronto? Or again, do they go with option 2 and Indiana goes and gets Mike D'Antoni and they pair up, the tough group of players and Victor with a star? I don't think that's a likely option. Again, it's hard to get big name players to a small market, a small city like Indiana. It's hard to get a big name coach like Mike D'Antoni to a small market like Indiana. So I gotta say that it's looking like option 1 is the more likely option. It's looking like option 1 will more than likely take place. I don't want to put words in Victor's mouth, say he wants out of Indiana or anything, but if you're looking at the context clues, reading his quotes directly, yeah, I gotta go with option 1 here if I was a betting man. If you're a betting man, go check out BetUS. One more little nugget for you. But again, option 1 seems like the more likely of the two. We'll see what Victor and the Pacers do. They are still under contract, with each other for the next year. So we'll see what the next year has in store for Victor and the Indiana Pacers. I want to go ahead and take a quick break. When I come back, one more recap. The Orlando bubble, in my opinion, will be coming to a close on Friday. So I'm going to go over some of the surprises, some of the things we have seen in the bubble so far. One more recap for you coming up next, my final segment of my final podcast of the week. Don't go anywhere. That stuff is coming up next.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
All right, it's great to have you back. My final segment of the final podcast of the week for me. Again, I'm only here on Mondays and Thursdays, so again, my final segment. Make sure you guys, though, are keeping it here at the GSMC Podcast Network. A whole lot of podcasts for you guys to check out and enjoy, so make sure you check out our long list of podcasts. But like I said before the break, I want to discuss the NBA bubble. It's coming to an end on Friday. On Friday, I am predicting. I've spoken on it before, but again, with it coming to an end, one more recap for us. Let's go ahead and go over some of the crazy things, some of the surprises that we saw in the Orlando bubble. It's been a little bit. They've been in that bubble for months now, so one more recap since it's coming to an end. If you guys don't remember, what about that race for the 8th seed in the Western Conference, of course? In the East, not much to talk about, but remember the race for the 8th seed out West. There was Memphis, New Orleans, Portland, Phoenix, San Antonio. All of those teams had legitimate chances at being that 8th seed, facing up against that Los Angeles Lakers team. Again, Memphis, New Orleans, Portland, Phoenix, and San Antonio all wanted their chance to get swept or gentlemen swept by the Lakers. Can't blame them. I don't want to throw a shot out or anything like that. But either way, like I said, the race for the 8th seed was intense. Memphis had the 3.5 game lead, but had the brutal seeding game schedule, and they ultimately gave up that 8th spot. San Antonio simply would not go away. They kept fighting, and were simply, if Memphis and Portland both lost, but San Antonio gets into the 8th spot. So coming down to the final seeding game, San Antonio still had a chance of making it. They simply would not go away, trying not to snap or stop that streak for Popovich, the streak of so many playoff appearances for San Antonio. But yeah, Memphis gives up the 3.5 game lead. San Antonio would not go away. New Orleans disappointed us all ultimately. They were favored to get that 8th spot, had the easy seeding game schedule, but disappoint us all. Zion doesn't look to be in the best of shape, and they lose. Again, despite being favored, I saw them as being favored completely to make that 8th seed. They disappoint us ultimately. Phoenix surprises everyone on the opposite end of New Orleans. They surprise us in a good way. They go 8-0. They don't lose a single game in the seeding game schedule, yet they still fail to make the playoffs or even make the play-in tournament game. That I definitely have questions about that. Still, I don't think I'm over that. It's still somehow they didn't even have a chance to make it, despite not losing a seeding game. But despite that, despite them not necessarily having the best chances or it being fair in a way, it was definitely surprising for Devin Booker, the hot streak the Phoenix Suns went on. Watch out for them in years to come if they can play like that consistently. And then Portland, despite having a tough seeding game schedule, being over 3.5 games back by the way and will of Damian Lillard, they make the 8th spot. 50 points from Damian Lillard, some dominant performances from him. However, Portland then goes on to be gentlemen swept by the Lakers. People are saying Portland was the best 8th seed ever. Some people were even saying, saying the Lakers might not have a chance because of their lack of perimeter defense. They go on to gentlemen sweep Portland in the first round. Utah and Denver go 7. Denver comes back from 3-1 for the first time in the postseason. Dallas and Luka Doncic challenges the Los Angeles Clippers. That series goes 6 games, even though some people saw it being a 4-game sweep or a 5-game series. That goes 6 games by the will of Luka Doncic. Philly gets swept by the Boston Celtics without their guy in Ben Simmons, but a disappointing effort 100% by Philly, getting swept by Boston. Miami steamrolls their way through the Eastern Conference. They beat the MVP in Giannis and the best team in Milwaukee, in the Milwaukee Bucks, in just 5 games. Sweep. Indiana beats the deep roster in Boston in just 6. So Miami steamrolls through the Eastern Conference. The Clippers blow their 3-1 lead over Denver. Denver comes back to multiple consecutive 3-1 deficits in the same postseason. Again, the Clippers choke despite being favored to win all year. The Miami Heat, despite having no odds whatsoever to make the finals, again, make the NBA Finals. The Lakers easily beat Denver, the team who comes back on the Clippers. And the Lakers are now one game away from being the NBA champions, getting the NBA title, bringing it home to Los Angeles. LeBron getting his third title, a title on his third different team. Being the first player ever potentially to get a Finals MVP on 3 different teams, winning it in both the East and the Western Conference when people said he could not do so. So yes, the NBA bubble has been insane. We had a whole lot of surprising performances and impressive performances when it comes down to it. And remember, a quick joke here for the end. You guys remember the whole Lou Will Magic City situation? That's how long this bubble has been going on. It seems like that was so long ago, but remember, the whole Lou Will goes to the gentleman's club, if you will, gets his lemon pepper wings that were named after him, his Lou Will lemon pepper wings, right? Goes to the gentleman's club, does not tell the league. They find out because of social media. Yeah, remember that was a couple of months ago. Seems like that was forever ago. That proves how long they have been in the Orlando bubble. Again, the Orlando bubble has been filled with surprises and much needed entertainment. They were the first league to come back. They do the bubble. People were skeptical on it, but I give it an overall A+. They kept all of their players safe. Not one player got the virus while being in the bubble. We got great high-level basketball for the entirety of the seeding games and the NBA postseason. We got a great deal of upsets. We got LeBron James in the NBA Finals once again, so not much more you could ask for. The only thing we didn't get was the Battle of LA in the Western Conference Final, but ultimately, you got no one else to prove besides the Clippers for blowing that 3-1 lead. That's the only thing we didn't get this year. Despite that, no complaints for me. The bubble was filled with surprises and entertainment. Again, much needed entertainment. It gives me, I give it 2 thumbs up, an A+ for me for the Orlando bubble, giving us much needed entertainment when we needed it most. That is going to be it, though, for the GSMC Basketball Podcast. Thank you all for the continued support. Go check us out on Facebook and Twitter. Leave us a comment or review on whatever platform you are listening on. Again, the final game, I am predicting the final game of the NBA Finals will be on Friday. Make sure you guys go check that out, because the next time we're going to see basketball, probably not going to be all the way until January. So make sure you guys go check out the final game of the season on Friday. Go make sure you check out, NFL Sunday. Check out the GSMC football podcast. But here at GSMC basketball, that's going to be it for me this week. But I'll see you guys next week on Monday. Keep it here. I'll see you guys on Monday.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Basketball Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.